Hello, guys. So today we're talking a little bit about how to maintain results long term because, as we all know, it's not just about you losing weight, it's about the long term solution of how to keep it off. So, this was one of the questions that came up in the weekly check in last week. So, I thought it really helpful to run through. So, the reality is, have you ever, like, let's think back from this way, like, have you ever lost weight before and then regained it straight away? You probably have. We all have at some time, right? And it's the reality of what it comes down to is it's a lifestyle problem that you're facing. Losing weight isn't the hard part of a fitness goal or a weight loss goal. Losing the weight isn't the hard bit, unfortunately. It's the keeping it off that's way harder. So the goal isn't necessarily fat loss that you're trying to go for now. Like say you're on a fitness journey, you're wanting to lose weight, you want to get fitter, stronger, you want to become a better version of yourself. The goal isn't actually fat loss. The goal is you learning how to become the person that can maintain the results that you're looking to achieve. So this is why it's really important that it's really important to look at the process, not just the weight loss side of things. So let's run through why people regain unwanted weight. Essentially, what happens is they'll lose weight, they'll drop, say, 10 kilos, 5, 10, 15, 20 kilos, whatever it is you're looking to achieve. And then as soon as you come off the weight loss side of things, the biggest struggle is that that structure then disappears. You had a focus, you had motivation, you wanted to get to that weight loss goal. You've got to that weight loss goal. And essentially, what you've done now is you've stepped away from it. You've stepped away from it. And once you lose that structure, your old habits will start creeping back in. And when life gets busy, which it will, because life is always fucking life in, because that's just what it does, your fitness is going to drop back down to the bottom of the pile again. And when it drops back down to the bottom of the pile, your old patterns are going to start creeping in. Before you know it, you're going to be back in your own old ways, and you're likely to start heading on to the trajectory of where you started if you don't take action and work in the right way. So let's run through what that looks like. So why did the fat loss work in the first place? So I look like I've got shorts on. I've got shorts on. They're just got my leg up. Um, why did fat loss work in the first place? So you had structure. I harp on about structure all the time because it is so important. Structure and planning is the key to success when it comes to your fitness journey, your weight loss journey. And also, most importantly, it's the way you're going to build, learn, and develop these healthy habits. When you were losing fat, you were being consistent, you were being intentional, you were had it in your mindset of what you needed to do, where you needed to get to, and you had somebody helping you, or maybe not somebody helping you, but you had the goal and you had that accountability of where you wanted to get to. But ultimately, that fat loss has come from your behaviors changing. Because when you'd gained the weight, you had different behaviors because those are the behaviors that made you gain that weight. So when you went to the fat loss side of things, you had to change your behavior. You had to change your eating. You had to change your movement. You had to change your exercise. You had to be more mindful. So your fat loss comes from your behavior changing. And your behavior changing is what causes the fat loss. Your decisions, your mindset, the actions that you take every day is what's going to change it. So essentially, what's happened is your mindset has shifted over to being more disciplined and being more structured. When you go into maintenance mode, this is where the biggest mistake is that people make. People think maintenance mode means stepping away from it and I can maintain that now. Maintenance mode still requires a lot of structure. It still requires routine. It still requires those habits. You've just got a lot more flexibility ultimately because you're not wanting to lose weight as such. You're just wanting to maintain and hold where you're at. And you probably might even want to continue building with strength because ultimately, like, do we ever want to not be really fucking strong, right? You always wanting to be building strength, especially as we age, because our muscle mass depletes as we get older. So if we're doing our strength training, we're building on our muscle mass to make sure we stay strong for when we're older. But maintenance mode requires structure. It requires you to build new habits, not going back into your old self. So all of the habits that you've learned and built on your fat loss journey and on your strengthening journey, this is like, well, in COVID terms, your new normal. This is you. That's the life you're living. Now, I'm not saying you need to be as strict as what you're doing now to get to where you are, but you still need those structures and those elements for you to hold that position strong. And that's your life. That becomes your new normal. You just have a lot more flexibility in your day to day and your week to week. So maintenance, the biggest thing, the biggest mistake people make is not understanding that maintenance does not mean doing nothing. If you want to hold and keep your results long term, you got to maintain, you got to hold your position, you got to defend, essentially. And you do that by doing the basics over and over and over again. And you just keep going, and it's part and parcel of your life. And it gets to that point where these habits are so natural and normal to you that they're really comfortable because you're not continuously pushing, you're not continuously in a deficit, you're not continuously like fighting to be in control of where you want to get to. You can just take your foot off the accelerator a little bit and relax around that area. The main thing, I'll run through a few of the key main things. So the first thing is structure. So structure and guidelines. You needed them when you had fat loss. You need them now when you want to maintain. You need plans around your food and your exercise. I would always recommend somebody has like don't going into the gym aimlessly, picking up a few weights, doing a few bits here and there it's not ideal. It's not going to necessarily get you results. And like I say, surely you want to always continue to be building. But you need plans with when it comes to exercise, like how many workouts you can do a week, make sure you're being accountable. And also you need plans around food, like what you're going to eat, what meals you're going to eat, because we all know when the structure goes around eating, that's like the tendency to be like, do you know what? I haven't got anything in the fridge, let's just grab a takeaway. Or I haven't got anything in the cupboards, I'll just have like whatever got beans on toast or something like that. I'm not against beans on toast, I bloody love beans on toast. Um, but you kind of slip into that mindset of the make do, and you don't want to be in that mindset of make do because that's the slippery slope. You need structure around still when you're going to do your workouts, 3 to 4 workouts a week. If you're only looking to maintain, they might not necessarily need to be quite as intense as they were previously, but you're probably still going to want to make sure that you're pushing forward. You're still getting some form of results, you're still building, strengthening, and you still need to be burning those calories. You still need to be doing your daily movement. So that might now at the moment you might have a step goal of let's say 12,000, 30,000. That might drop down to like 8 to 10,000. That you don't need to go as intense on all of these things as what you're doing now. You just got to hold it back a little bit, but just keep doing them. You just got to keep doing them. Um, so when it comes to you having freedom because you're maintaining, if you haven't got that structure, that's when you're going to start drifting. You're going to start drifting away from the results that you've already built. But while you're doing this, so I always refer to it as a sustainable weight loss plan. Okay. So you are losing weight, you're losing unwanted fat, and you're building muscle. The way we do it is in a sustainable way because we're losing, on average, you're typically losing about 0.5 to 1 kilo a week. That is a sustainable, realistic amount of weight to be losing a week if you put your mind to it. Like it might deviate, it might be a little bit less some weeks, it might be a little bit more other weeks. But on average, you might have weeks where you don't do anything, you don't have any weight loss at all, or you might have weeks where it might peak up a little bit. That's completely normal, it's completely fine. But when we look at the trajectory of you going down, it's a slow, wiggly line going down. It's not like this. The reason it's sustainable is because your body is not just losing the weight in a sustainable way, but you're also building habits. The most important thing about so much of this process is actually you ingraining these habits, installing these habits into your day to day without you even knowing. I guarantee now, if you stepped away from this, you'd go into a restaurant and you'd be like more mindful of the food and things. You'll now have had your eyes open to how much protein you genuinely need to be eating, an average person needs to be eating. You will have learned so much along this journey that you might not even realize that you've learned. And you're building and learning all of these habits so become, you can learn these sustainable habits for you to be able to hold your results. You've got to have learned the baseline habits, like I say, of the protein. Like most women come to me, then I would say 20% of women actually eat the right amount of protein that I speak to. Water as well. Hydration is always so low, but you'll have learned that. You know now. Yes, water is one that we always have to keep reminding, like keep giving a bit of a nudge to. But you'll learn, you'll be recognizing that actually the amount of water you're drinking often isn't enough. So you'll be more mindful about you need to increase it. It's these baseline habits that you're learning that are going to mean that when life gets busy, you still know what you need to be doing to tick over. And also, the key thing is always accountability. So, the third thing is when people, one of the other reasons, the other things people struggle with when they step away from that, once they've got the results and they step away, is they forget real life has hurdles. It always will do. And if they're not expecting those hurdles, they're often going to fall at them. They're not going to be prepared to jump. You are going to get stressed. You are going to have a busy work life. You are going to have social plans. You're going to have holidays. Life is always going to be life in. That's what it fucking does. And so when it comes to getting to those hurdles of life, the biggest thing, people expect that they've got their results and they step off and they don't account for the hurdles of life. And then the smallest thing is going to tip them over the edge. They're going to start forgetting how to jump over the hurdle. But ultimately, as I always say, whether you're on your fitness journey, whether you're maintaining or whether you're strengthening, whatever the situation, it's not about you like having a bad meal. It's not about you falling off track. Ultimately, the most important thing is how quickly you can reset from that. It doesn't matter if you go out and have a few drinks and have go out for dinner. That's okay. Next day, just get straight back on it. Don't even think about it. Just get straight back on it. Have your healthy breakfast, have your protein, get loads of water in you. It's not about how you fall off, it's about how quickly you can reset. And when you're in that maintenance mode, that is the time where you can relax, you can go out, you can enjoy yourself, absolutely. But you need to have the mindset of don't let it sabotage the rest of your week. Don't have that mindset of being now, I've had a few drinks, I've a bit fucked it now, and then it tumble on. You've got to have that mindset of, do you know what? Right, had a brilliant time. You say, no guilt, no worry. Let's get back on it today and we continue. Because that is where the results are going to stay when you have that mindset. The fourth thing is that people have this tendency to have this all or nothing mindset. They slip into those habits of one off meal, it's ruined everything. But it doesn't. You having one off meal doesn't ruin anything. What does ruin everything, or what will like flip your results, start flipping your results, is when you have one off meal on like a Thursday and you let that leak all the way through to the weekend and then you start having that mindset of Monday. And that's a habit. Once you do that a few times, you then get back in that cycle of starting again on Monday. So if you want to maintain those results, you have to have drop the all or nothing thinking and get back onto that mindset of like just getting back on track. One missed workout, it doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world. When you miss your workout multiple times over and over and a pattern starts forming, that's when it does become the problem. That's again when your results start slipping. You still have to have this element of structure for you to maintain these results. When you fall off, just get straight back on. That's what you got, just get straight back on. The fifth thing is you've got to be aware. Like you don't have to track, you might be tracking your calories now. You might be logging everything on MyFitnessPal, and that's perfect. For you to be losing unwanted fat, ideally in an ideal world, for you to maximize your results, tracking your calories is one of the best ways to go so you can actually see how much you're eating. and you've got a clear number. Otherwise, it's a bit of guesswork. But when you come off and you want to maintain, you ain't got to track your calories every day if you don't want to track your calories every day. But you just need to be aware. You need to be mindful of what you're eating. You need to be mindful of making those healthier choices. And you need to be doing things like not necessarily every week, but you do need to be doing your own personal check-ins, like checking on your body weight, checking how your clothes fit, checking like the energy that you've got and how your habits are built, how your habits are trending. So like if you're getting to the points where maybe you do feel like your jeans are getting that little bit tighter, that is your mark. That's your boundary. That's your boundary to pull you back in and be like, do you know what? It's time to put the foot on the accelerator to lose a little bit of weight. And it's using that as your judgment. So you need your boundaries. Like my weight isn't exactly the same all the time. My trousers don't fit exactly the same all the time either. Sometimes they're tighter, sometimes they're a lot looser. But it's like using those clothes as like your boundaries, as your measure, using your check-in. Don't worry about your weight. I'm not really not that fussed about weight, but using clothes is a great way. Your measurements is a great way, but having boundaries. And once you get to the outer boundary, that's when you need to switch on that discipline and be like, do you know what? For me to maintain these results that I've got, you need to put the foot on the accelerator, drop it back a bit. You need to start switching gear to hold on to the habits that you've built. You also need a little bit like be aware around structure, routine, movement. If I say to you, you step away from your results and you go back to your old habits, you probably will end up putting on weight. So you need to be having a routine and a structure, a movement into your week, planning it, being aware of what you need to do when. It doesn't have to be as intense as what you might be doing now. It doesn't, you might not have to be doing as many steps, but you just got to be mindful that you still got to be moving, you still got to be doing some exercise. Not necessarily just for the weight loss side of things, but also because it's really good for your mind, it's really good for your strength. And as we get older, exercise is so important to us aging, to our future selves, to us being fitter and stronger for when we're older, for us getting up and down from a chair, for us being able to carry our shopping home on the little bus or something, whatever they have by the time we're that age. But like you've got to be planning now for your fitness for when you're older too. You've also got to be mindful of your portion sizes. I know it's so easy for portion sizes to get big. I eat so much food. My meal sizes are big, and then I have seconds and thirds. But I know when those trousers are going to get a little bit tight, I've got to strip back a little bit on that. That's the first thing. You've got to review your portion sizes. And when those sweet treats are not becoming treats, becoming more of a regular habit, that's when you got to wind it back a little bit too. Now, I think that I'm not against like having sugar, chocolate, anything like that whenever you want it. But you just got to be mindful when that treat isn't actually a treat. Maybe there's something like you need to address. Or as well, when it's kind of creeping in and you're not actually enjoying it, you're eating it through habit. I know I do it a lot, particularly after Easter. We had a box of chocolate sitting on the side, and I'll just go over to it and walk and eat some like a little egg or something. I was mindlessly eating it. So it's about being aware of these habits, being aware of what you are consuming. You've got to prevent your awareness from drifting away. So for you to enjoy life without losing your progress, you need to understand that not every meal needs to be perfect. You don't need to be perfect, but not every meal can be whatever you want to eat. There has to be some element of control. What I would normally do is like just having your balance around the week, not per meal. Like, so think of it as bit as you're doing now. So like being mindful of what you're up to at the weekend, what plans you've got going on, what you need to account for. So if you know you're going to have a big blowout weekend, then maybe, yeah, drop back on the food a little bit during the week, do a bit of calorie banking during the week, so that when you get to the weekend, you've got a little bit more relaxation, a little bit more enjoyment. But I'm not saying you have to clock those calories. I'm just saying you just need to be a little bit more mindful of what you're eating. I'd always go 80-20 rule. So do if you can. 80% healthy and on track, and then 20% for things that you enjoy, whether that be going out, having a drink, having some chocolate. But if you can stick to an 80-20 rule, you're going to be in a good position to stay on track and with those results. It's like having a meal out, enjoy it, don't write off the day. It doesn't have to be over because you've had one meal out. Like that's not going to ruin your progress. You just got to get back on track after. Weekends, control the meals that you can control, and weekdays, control the meals that you can control. So, like if you're away for a weekend or if you're going out for the weekend, if you can have your a good breakfast, a good lunch, and then you enjoy it, like have something different for dinner or go out for dinner. It's about having that structure and pulling in on those things that you can have control over. When it comes to holiday, you've got a couple of options. You go all out, and then when you get back from holiday, you get straight back on it and you just don't have any guilt about it. Or you go on holiday, I probably might put me as a bit of a loser. I go on holiday and I go to the gym. I love going to the gym on holiday. I might not go every day, but even if I can get a 30-minute session in at the gym on holiday, or even going for a run along the beach, doing some banded workouts like on my balcony, or like yeah, people think I'm strange. But for me, exercise is about keeping momentum. And once you break that momentum, it's a lot harder to get back on track. You think it's harder to start running from standing still than it is from a light jog. If you're doing a light jog and then you start sprinting, that's so much easier than standing still and starting. And that's the mindset you need to be in. So whatever you can do to keep the momentum moving forward, even if you're just walking, it's still about nudging the ball forward. Because ultimately, when it comes to maintenance, it's not about restriction. It's about you having that element of control so that you can maintain your results. It's about having the boundaries either side. So in summary, you've got to be thinking more consistency over perfection. And you do have to be thinking about it most days. You have to have it in the back of your mind. You have to have those reins on. It's not about losing everything for you to have your results. You've still got to implement those healthy, sustainable habits that you've been learning. So, in a nutshell, that is how to keep and maintain the results that you have built. And if you've got any questions after, drop me a message. I'm always here to help. And thank you very much. I cannot seem to stop it.